Sweet. Yo, welcome to the Gentleman Syndicate podcast or channel. I'm here to introduce a guest of mine, worked with them, Chief NORAD, retired Chief NORAD, right? So,
Jason.
Jason now, there we go.
Yeah.
I want to introduce him and let him talk about himself for a little bit, and then we'll kind of get into it. But welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe to the channel. And on you, brother.
Hey, man. Glad to be here, dude. I'm happy that you're starting this up and giving us a platform.
Man.
baby steps. But
it is baby steps.
Yeah, you got a bright future, man. But like you said, I was retired Navy, did 20 years. I did all four corners of the United States. Started in Virginia, went to San Diego, then to Pensacola, then up to New York, and then Washington, and now San Angelo. And that's where I decided.
I don't know what the Navy's doing in San Angelo, brother. There ain't no water.
There ain't no water, dude. It's too dry. It's too dry.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're here at the school. You retired from the schoolhouse.
Yep. I was a senior enlisted advisor for the Navy, Coast Guard, and the civilians.
Okay. So in your 20-year journey, you had how many kids?
2 girls, 17 and 12, Ava and Aaliyah.
17 and 12. Man, they got plans to go to college?
Yeah. My oldest has plans to go to University of Texas, San Antonio next year. So
staying close.
Be right down the road from me. So I can't wait.
All right. And then, so you were married?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how we got started, right?
Yeah.
I don't exactly remember, but I was going through my divorce and going through all that stuff. And you were like, we need to talk. And I was like, we do.
Yep.
So, how long were you married? And then how did that, we'll go from there.
18 years. And yeah.
18 years of your 20-year career.
Yeah.
You were married and she followed you everywhere.
Yep.
Was she like a high school sweetheart or something?
No. My best friend was getting married in Virginia. He was a corpsman and I was his best man. And one of his friends that he worked with was friends with her and had a picture of her at her house. And
you're like,
it up. Yeah.
Her. You're like her. Okay. I mean, so 18 years, divorced, 2 kids. Those kids, they live with her?
Yeah, with their mom up in New York.
Up in New York, man. See, yeah. So you're kind of like, I mean, my kids are across the ocean. So, but it's still the same thing, man. Any distance is a distance, man. That makes it harder for that communication. So I'm assuming you probably went through some things that I went through, and we've had some discussions, man.
Yeah.
How did that impact you? How did that after 18 years, man? So, man, that's tough, bro.
Yeah.
18 years.
So you got everything drawn out.
Yep.
To start your next chapter. So as soon as I dropped papers to retire, she dropped papers to divorce. So
did she ever say why?
I mean, this is your typical marriage. We never really fought, but like the last month, we were just not jiving, and I didn't see it coming, and said, You're acting weird, man. It looks like the next thing it's going to come out your mouth is, I want a divorce. And she says, I do. And I was like, whoa.
Dude, that's because you were at the time, so that happened when you were here.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, that's got to be even tougher being the senior enlisted leader for the section, right? Because there's not a lot of other places or people
nope
to really talk to.
My closest boss was in California, 2 time zones away, and I was here running the largest fire academy in the world. It's a no-fail mission, so I wasn't allowed to.
You weren't allowed to,
Yeah,
to
there was no
take care of
venting.
the
Like every morning, put on your big boy pants and go teach the next generation of firefighters, and not allow it to affect my work. So it was a lot of
But
taking stuff home and processing it by myself. And
so how did you do that? Like what?
like your, I don't know, like your typical horror story, like nobody's there for you. It's you, the bottle, which,
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, don't recommend anybody going down that road. And just FaceTiming my kids as much as I possibly could, but trying not to allow it to affect my work and the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely was the hardest thing I've done in my life, was allow my kids to just up and roll.
I mean, you said it just like I said it, right? Because I had the same. I was posed with that same question. You know, a lot of people are like, man, I would have never let her leave. You know, and I don't know if you went through it like I did. You know, you hear about men going through divorce, but then you don't really go talk to them about it, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll hear about it, whatever, if they have enough, you know, mindset to come talk to you. And then you have that one question like, well, they're away. They're not here. They're not like down the road. They're not on the other side of town. They're in another state, another country for me. Um, and it's like, how do you restart that? How do you, you know, polish that turd into something that you can leverage, man? You know what I'm saying? Like that was difficult, dude. That was one of the hardest things I've done, was feeling, you know, I don't know if you went through it where you felt like you lost some authority with your kids.
Oh,
And,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So you only get to see them 62 days out of the year. The disciplinary role is out the picture. So like,
Yeah.
you don't want them to come here and
Mm-hmm.
like feel like they can't open up to you and let you
Right.
know what's bothering them. For
Right. So what was your tactic on dealing with that part? Like how did you, when they did come and visit you, um, did you have to kind of treat your kids kind of more like they're your friends?
no, like it was a lesson learned in life, like how to adjust. Um, like I heard this quote one time, and it says, "When your life's going through a storm, your number one purpose in life is to make sure your kids don't get wet." And I wish I would have heard that a lot sooner
Yeah.
than later, because like when you don't have nobody to voice your frustration on or what's going on with your life, like when you have your kids
Yeah.
around, like you tend to somewhat get diarrhea of the mouth and let them know
Ah,
what you're feeling.
I
So,
see. Yep.
and like no kid wants that. Like, they want to just chill with their dad and do dumb, stupid, immature shit all the time, and which I love doing. I'm still a high school senior at heart.
Hey, hey,
But,
you know.
like, if I would have heard that a lot sooner, and
Mhm.
like maybe the relationship would have been a whole lot different. But
So how did I experienced that, you know, like when my daughter went over to Germany, my two daughters, my son, you know, I remember, and I'm not here to bash my ex-wife, bro. Like I would love to, you know, I would love to just expose, but you know, my kids are gonna eventually see this, right?
yeah,
So um I will tread lightly around the subject of her. But there was a time when I literally was talking to my daughter and she was like, you know, asking me to pay for horseback riding lessons, bro. Horseback riding lessons. Come on, dog.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? Horseback riding lessons. Like your mom needs some money to pay for your horseback riding. Okay. You know, my daughter had she had like, it was almost like she was reading a PowerPoint, bro. She could have went through a big class. You know what I'm saying? Broke down how much it costs every week. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, Naraya, like, I love you. And I'm glad that you love riding horses, but like, I'm not going to sit here and talk about money with you. You're my daughter, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I get it, you know? So, like, if that's a conversation I need to have, I'm going to talk to your mom about that. And then she said something where I was like, whoa, you know? And she was like, well, yeah, you're talking about child support. And I was like, she's like 9 at the time. And I was like, child support? What do you know about child support? I never told her that.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, mom says you don't pay it. Bro, I lost it. I literally lost my mind. You know, I said, no, I get off the phone. I need to talk to your mom. And I just went in on her. Like, are you kidding me? I've been doing this. I've been doing that. I pay this. I pay that. I got proof. And you over here telling her this. And then my daughter heard it. My daughter heard it, man. And after that, dude, I spent months trying to recover from that conversation that I lost on their mother in front of her, but I didn't know she was there. So how did that, what you were just talking about, trying to, when you're going through the storm, try not to let your kids get wet, how did that translate in your life for your daughters? Like how did you see the impact, and then how did you recover?
So I'm slowly like in the recovery phase.
Okay, yeah.
And like our relationship is getting a whole lot better than it was previous, but there's a lot of stuff like in life when we were going through the divorce and all that stuff that I was naive. I didn't know I was being baited. A lot of stuff like came out like in court and like.
So you had a nasty divorce.
Yeah, well, like they say, hey, it's definitely worth the money to spend on a good lawyer.
Well, I wish I had a good
My
lawyer.
lawyer pretty much didn't do anything for me other than file the paperwork. And I just felt like I wasn't represented right. And it's just lesson learned in life. Like all my boys always said, hey, spend the money, get the father's rights lawyer. You want to fight for your kids. But being active duty military in the court's eyes, they look at it like you can be deployed at any moment, even though I've already dropped retirement papers. Like I ain't going nowhere. Like,
yeah. And I think there's a misconception too about that, right? You know, because you hear people saying, you know, oh, the courts don't care if you're military, but Texas is a mother state.
Yeah.
So almost immediately, by proxy, custody is going to the mother.
Correct.
And as the father, it's almost like you have to prove your worth to the courts. And then you have the lawyer on her side, or she didn't even need a lawyer. Honestly, the mother doesn't need a lawyer. She's going to get representation from the state of Texas through the judge. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever she says is held up in court. Like it is what it is, and it's held against you. Is that is that similar?
Yeah, absolutely. So she was able to get resident, like pay for an apartment in New York for 6 months. Wasn't aware of it. So when it came time to go talk to the judge, she's already established residency. And the way the court looked at it was she's already got a job lined up and a house lined up. And I'm from Houston originally. Said my closest family support would be 6 hours away. Hers would be 6 minutes away. So then the judge just granted her primary custodial rights and no geographical restrictions. So she was free to leave the state and take my kids with her. So
how did she know that? Oh yeah,
good friends, you know.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Not trying to bad talk their mom.
Yeah. But the whole resident thing, like that's new to me, right? Like for those that are listening, um, the resident, she was able to establish residency through the separation agreement that y'all had created leading up to the divorce. That's
Yeah.
what you're talking about,
Well, no, she paid the deposit and paid monthly rent for this duplex in New York for 6 months, and I wasn't even aware of any of this was going down
right?
until it came down to it. And
And
so
okay.
it looked like she was squared away. So now my kids live in a 2-bedroom duplex in New York, and then I had to. It's a lot of like, why didn't you move to New York? You're selfish. You're staying in Texas. And my sole purpose in life, like from day one, my kids are not going to follow my path. They're not going to go in the military. Like we're a huge military family, but like I had like as a kid in kindergarten, like my papa was like, "You got two choices, man. You ain't going to college. You got the Navy or the Marine Corps. You better pick the Navy." Like
that was his path.
Yeah, and he was like, "I don't care if you do 4 years or 40 years, dude, but like you will serve." And like he was such a great mentor to me. Like, and then hearing all the sea stories with him and all his buddies, and like I wanted to experience that. But then when the post 9/11 GI Bill came out, like around 2012, I signed over my rights. Kids are gonna take my GI Bill. And my sole purpose, like I wanted them to have an education. When they graduate, there's no debt. Like hit the street running.
Yeah.
So then me being a Texas resident, you get the Hazelwood Act.
Hazelwood, yep.
So being 100% disabled, you can transfer each one of your dependents gets 150 credit hours on top of them having my GI Bill. So one of the stipulations is I have to remain in the state for them to utilize that benefit. But it's constant having to like prove my worth. Like, hey, like, why are you not in New York? Like, I'm here for my kids' education. Like, they are going to graduate and they are going to go to college. Their college is free anywhere in the state of Texas.
Right.
So, but I have to be here in the state. So I choose to stay here in San Angelo. Cost of living's great. Like, granted, it is on the other side of the state away from my family, but I'm still able to provide a good life for myself and my children.
Right. So when you say they, because you were kind of talking about the whole process of you having to stay, because you can't have a break of domicile from Texas. You have to show that you've been living here.
Correct.
The whole time. And when you say, hey, why don't you move to New York? You're talking about your daughters asking you this?
No, this is what's putting in their head. Like, why didn't you move to New York? Like, it's
manipulation.
Selfish for you to stay there, Dad. Like, while we're up here, like you can move up here and get a job here, but I have to remain in the state. Like, that's the number one stipulation. Like, I will make sure that my kids have the best education, and when they graduate, they do not have to worry about being $200,000 in debt and then trying to start a family of their own and a business, whatever path they choose. Right. I 100% support, but I don't want them to go through the hardships I had to growing up and living without and struggling. And then especially them being in their mid-20s, whenever they do graduate college, like everything's afforded to them. Like,
right. You know, they kind of have a clean slate to the choices of the paths that they want to go to. Right.
Start your life.
So for those that kind of gone through it, been through it, I've been through it, I still go through it, man. Like I said, man, not talking nothing bad about my ex, man, but she did the same stuff, you know, manipulation, telling my kids that, you know, that he chooses not to live in Germany, he can. And I at first I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna join in that battle, right? Of trying to tell my kids one thing or another. But I had to start saying, you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is, this is where I'm at because X, Y, and Z. And that was a choice that I made for my kids. And, and I had to stand behind that and continue to prove that, right? By staying in constant communication with my kids and trying to, let them know. Because sometimes the best thing that you can tell your kid at the end of the day is I love you. And that's something that my ex-wife will never understand, right? Is as much stuff that she took from me being able to have an impact on my two daughters and my son's life, is that she could never take away the power of me telling my daughter that I love her and my son that I love him and my other daughter that. And every day I'll tell him that. Because it's just going to leave like, well, daddy's not here to, be mad and upset all the time and all those little things that we all go through growing up. Daddy's on a different path. Like I remember when you got out, I'm not saying you were fat, but you know what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
You needed some work to do, and then you started shredding up and cutting up, dog.
Yep.
So, I see you now. I'm like, oh, what's up, bro? Hey, I don't want no problems with you, man. So, like, in those moments, in those times that, we kind of had to take that backseat in our kids' lives, and all we're left with is saying is, I love you. What did you do
And
for
that's
yourself?
and that's all you can do. Like, I mean, when you're left in our situation, is FaceTime them as much as you can and tell them that you love them. And hopefully they'll open up to you and let you know what is bothering them. Or
Yeah.
But I mean, me being here, you have to find something healthy to do. And like probably one of the worst experiences I had in court turned out to be a blessing.
Okay. You
So
want to get into that?
So when they talk about like the whole PTSD and all that stuff, and like as a firefighter being crashed, and you see some nasty stuff, but when you have a spouse to confide in, they hear everything. And so that was my therapist. Like I knew what I was signing up for. Like see dead bodies, burnt bodies, body parts, like all day, every day in this career field. And I knew I accepted that. I didn't want to burden anybody, but like I would come back from a scene, and I would talk to my wife, and I would think that, hey, like
that's your safe space.
Yep, that's who I can confide in.
Yeah.
But little did I know that was going to be used as a weapon in court. So 7 deployments. And every time Jason would come home from a different deployment, Jason was a different guy. He's a much different guy. Another deployment. He would come back changed and like bring up old fire scenes, scenarios and situations. And the judge said, hey, I realize that you haven't sought help or sought some sort of treatment for PTSD. I don't need it, sir. I'm good to go. Like, so you probably need to. And I was like, all right. So that's what I did. And like went to mental health here on base. Garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Garbage. So one of the inflax here, like I went to mental health, went to go check in, said, hey, this is what happened, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And she was like, the best I can do is put you on a Zoom meeting with an Army doctor in Hawaii. And like,
what was his name? I had an Army doctor in Hawaii.
I never went through with it.
Oh, okay.
So I lost it on the counselors in there and the little nerd behind the desk. And I told him, I was like, hey, look, you got an actual person that's seen shit, done shit, and needs to get some stuff off his chest and talk to somebody.
Right.
But you're more concerned about these kids chasing Pokemon and Pikachu on base, and they don't get Wi-Fi in the barracks, so their life is ending. But meanwhile, I come to you with some real stuff, and then you're like, well, Zoom in like two weeks. So it wasn't my best moment in my career, but I showed my ass in there, lost it on the people. And one of the NFLAC ladies who I talked to quite frequently, like she would visit me in my office and vent about her day, and I would vent to her about my day. So I ended up hitting her up, and she was like, hey, there's West Texas counseling group out in town.
Okay, yeah, I've heard it. Yep.
So that's what I did. And the second session, the lady was like, I don't know how you're functioning, man. Like, your life actually gives me anxiety. And I was like, it's not what you want to hear your therapist say. But she was like, we're going to get through this. And we did. And it just became being like vulnerable and like let myself be vulnerable to another individual that I don't know. And
right.
Yeah. Express stuff I was going through in life. But I mean, gym and counseling, that's what got me to where I am right now. Like,
being able to have a positive relationship with your kids, still being able to take care of the things that you need to take care of. Because, a lot of the things, like when I was going through my space too, kind of like you, man, like I was just like, hey, this is how I've been dealing with it. This is what it is. Like I don't know no other way to get through it and to talk about it. But this is what it is, and this is what I'm doing. And like you were kind of saying, man, getting that help, being able to find a non-judgmental space to talk about the things that you've seen, done, or experienced, right? And then wouldn't be turned and used against you. Because my ex-wife she did the same thing to me. She was like, I'm gonna talk about your PTSD. And I was like, I can't say what I said, but I said some things and I was just like, you know what? This is crazy. You're gonna go as low. And remember this, Jason. I've always said this. I said this on one of my podcasts. A bad woman or a woman who wants to hurt you is like the Trojan horse of a man's life. Because they know all the things, they know all your weaknesses, they know what makes you tick and what's gonna hurt you most.
Yeah.
That's the only way to take over Troy. You know what I'm saying? It's the only way to take over that castle, man, is to come from within. So I get it, man. I get it, dude. So yeah. I'm glad that you started slimming down. You know what I'm saying? You no longer look like, look like you're. At first, I thought you was when you got out, huh?
The old like stereotypical chubby chief, and
nah. I mean, you was looking like you was getting ready to apply for St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Weird.
No, yeah, that's good, man. But yeah, dude, I definitely wanted to get you on the podcast, man, because we've had our short communications and discussions, and I hope we have more, and I think we will once I get my space that we can have like this face-to-face one. Because there's some other insights that you have that a lot of men should hear, about places that they can go to talk to and deal with and try and combat the manipulation. I'm going through parental alienation. That's one of the big things I'm going through. I'm sure you went through that too.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one. That's a hard one to deal with.
Something a dad should never have to go through.
But for all those opportunities of suffering becomes an opportunity of growth. So that's something I had to learn, in the little interactions we've had talking about that stuff. We're little boosters of being like, okay, then I'm not saying I'm glad somebody else kind of went through this, but it gave me insight of being like, man, I'm not the only one. I'm not isolated.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not isolated in that feeling. So yeah. I just wanted to introduce you, man, to the people, man. So
yeah.
I appreciate it, man. You're looking good. No homo, but you're looking good. And I'm glad that you're doing better. And it's tough that what you're going through. I'm ready to do more of these conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Brother.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely, bro.
Okay. Well, let's do it, man. I'm gonna say like and subscribe to the channel, Gentleman Syndicate. I appreciate you, Jason, no longer Chief. I appreciate you, Jason, man. We're gonna do this more often, brother, because there's so much to
yeah, I got a lot more.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Brother. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I'm gonna be spacing out right now. All right.
All right, bro. Later.